Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
This is Minister Joe Stevens and Coach Irene bringing you another segment from Let's Talk the Stevens. Yes. All right, so we hope you're having a wonderful Friday and an even better upcoming weekend. The topic for today is you cannot avoid God privately and expect power publicly. Again, it's you cannot avoid God privately and expect God publicly.
That might be a good one.
It might be a good one. We're gonna see. This is video number 25 for us, and we're gonna get started. Again, if you have any questions, be sure to hit us up on Messenger or text messages if you have our number. And if you're interested in seeing any of our previous videos, they are on our website. So we will send you the website as well if you do not have it.
Yes.
All right. Again, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
So, avoiding God privately while expecting power publicly is widely interpreted in Christian theology as hypocrisy and a form of godliness that denies its power. It describes a person who maintains an outward appearance of faith, attending church, using religious language, or holding a position of influence, but lacks a genuine, transformative inner relationship with God, resisting the Holy Spirit's control. All right? So that defines the reason why you cannot avoid God privately and expect power publicly.
Yes.
It completely explains it. So here's another breakdown of what the behavior means. For instance, religion without relationship. It means going through the motions of faith, rituals, public prayer, religious language, without actually knowing God or letting Him transform the heart. Your heart, my heart. Another one is another form of godliness. The form represents an outward structure or show of religion that is man-made rather than spirit-led, rejecting the true inward power of godliness. Now let's talk about suppression of truth. It is an intentional, often daily choice to avoid God's discipline and conviction because such intimacy requires accountability and it also requires change. Let's move into the danger of platform polish. Platform polish.
New term.
Yeah, it is. It places a higher value on public perception and career success than a personal piety, or piety, whichever you want to say, and holiness. False teachers, false prophets. Paul warns against such individuals, describing them as having a form of godliness, but denying its power, instructing believers to avoid them. Avoid them like the plague at all costs.
Yes.
And then the last one, before we move on, the consequence of hidden sin. And we all sin, and most of the time when we sin, we hide it. But I'm going to read it anyway. The consequence of hidden sin. A private life lived in unconfessed sin, which restricts the light of God, renders public service to God hypocritical. All right? You got anything you want to comment on before we move on to what this all means spiritually?
So yeah, oftentimes, you have people out there, so-called ministers, prophets, or even so-called people of the church that are attracted to the spotlight or the attention that comes with the actions of or speaking or praying or the attention that people get when it seems that you have power, or that it seems that you have invoked the power of God to come into the place. People, of course, when those things happen, you get people that are attracted to you, and it can attract money. It can attract popularity and fame, and oftentimes people are more concerned with that as opposed to being concerned with, or as opposed to being genuine about the work that God is doing. They often want to be in that spotlight and not really having a real relationship with God at all. Just in it for the glam and the glitz. But we need to be careful and be able to discern those type of people and ensure that we're not becoming those type of people, because it's not just about being in the spotlight or having everyone's attention, because at whatever level of a Christian you are, whether you're just a lay member, a trustee, a deacon, a minister, a pastor, a bishop, whatever, understand that that's still a level of servitude. You are still a servant of God. God is supposed to get all the glory. And there's nothing wrong with getting the attention, getting some of the praise that comes along with what you're doing, but always know and remember that it's not about you.
Yeah. So God does want us to be proud of what our accomplishments are, and proud of what the church is doing, and proud of what the things that we're doing that are great things. But when it's God led, it's one thing. When it's led by us, it's something else.
Right.
So spirit led, or what's another word? Just
spirit led. I guess maybe that's spirit led.
Yeah, if it's spirit led, that's one thing. But if it's just led by us, and a lot of times when we get power, we feel that we have power, and it's a good feeling. You're starting to bring funds in. Whether it's your nonprofit or your profit, your business. We sometimes get puffed up. And it's like I did this. Well, I didn't do anything without the help of the Lord. Yeah. I didn't wake up this morning without the help of the Lord. Absolutely. I do not have the functioning of my voice and my brain without the help of the Lord.
Yes.
So when we get caught up in the I, that's the power. But then when it comes to giving God praise for the actual things that He's done in private or even in public, we don't do that sometimes. So we just have to be careful. All right, so again, topic is you cannot avoid God privately and expect power publicly. So what does this all mean spiritually? As far as it lacking power, true power to change lives comes from being filled with the Spirit, not from public acclaim. So, if you're laying on our hands, if it's not God-led, those people that you're laying hands on, they may think that whatever their affliction is, or whatever their ailment, whatever their situation is, it's being healed or changed or transformed. But as soon as they walk out that door, they're going to be the same as when they walked in. That's why we have to be careful and let it be Spirit-led, which is led by God, and not come from just public acclaim.
Absolutely.
What does it mean when it's led to a hardened heart? Continuously ignoring God in private can result in spiritual blindness, leading to a seared conscience. Right?
Yeah. So you won't be. You need to develop a relationship with God, and you can't do that. Always in the public eye. You need to spend time and commune with God. Develop set aside some prayer time, some time just to meditate, just to hear the voice of God, because that's where you get your direction from is from God. So we can't neglect that time alone with God just to always be in the public eye.
Yeah, and ask God, what is it that you would have me to do? Not what is it that I, God, want to do. This is what I want to do. Well, allow God to order your steps. And it's okay to ask God for certain things, but still sit back, pray about it, and listen to the voice of God, like Joseph just said. You know, be spirit-led.
Yes, we have to align our will with the will of God, and then that's when He will give us the desires of our heart. Because at that point, once our will is aligned with His, so is our heart aligned with His. So we're not, talking to God or praying to God, asking Him for frivolous things, and then wondering why it's not happening. Saying, well, God, you said you'll give me the desires of my heart. Yes, but your heart is supposed to be aligned with God's heart. And that's how He'll give you the desires of your heart, not just things that you want. Again, God is not a genie. Where you can just say, give me this, give me that, and give me that. You have to adhere to the voice of God and align your life with the ways of God, and then the things that you want will align with the will of God.
Yeah, and we're not sitting here all holier than thou, because we are human, and we don't always get it right either. A lot of times we don't get it right. So let's move into it is self-deception. People living with double life often do not realize how far from God they are, believing their own public religious persona. All right? And so we're not saying that, the big mega churches aren't, connecting with God and that things aren't spirit-led. We're not saying the smaller churches or just the preachers or the ministers or whoever. We're not saying that, but we're just saying just be careful that not to avoid God privately, and expect public power. So you may have public power, it may seem, but sometimes those giants do come down. They do fall down. So just be careful. All right, moving on. Ultimately, the state is described as being a house on sand because it lacks the inward, solid foundation of private obedience to Christ. Now, I'm going to move into a few examples or groups of individuals who had divided allegiances. All right, so King Jeroboam the first was a prime example of a biblical leader who wanted power of kingship while privately abandoning God's commands, even using deception in his public and private life to maintain his position. Additionally, King Saul broke faith with God, seeking his own power and advice from the mediums rather than following God's guidance. So, in the case of King Jeroboam, that you can find that in 1 Kings 14. King Jeroboam feared losing his kingdom. He set up false idols to prevent his people from returning to Judah and tried to deceive a prophet regarding his actions. Is that you? Is that me? King Saul, 1 Chronicles, chapter 10, verse 13. He was rejected as king because he failed to keep God's commands and sought power, guidance through mediums. All right? Got a couple more. The form of godliness group. There was a group in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 5. Paul warns of people who maintain an outward public appearance on being godly, form of godliness, but deny the actual power of God in their private lives. So they weren't even actually they were denying God's power when they were to themselves, when they were private. And then the Pharisees in Luke chapter 16, verse 15. Jesus noted they justified themselves before men, wanting public acclaim for their righteousness, But God knew that their hearts were far from Him. And imagine when God actually knows that your heart is far from Him, but you're standing on a platform with all this power. You haven't recognized Him at home, in your private time. You haven't given Him any study. You haven't prayed to Him. You haven't given Him any thanks. I imagine that would make Him a little upset.
Yeah.
Right? And that power that you have, or that we would have, any of us, could be brought down in the twinkling of an eye, in an instant. Because God is a jealous God, and He says, have no other gods before me. Not even yourself. You can't even be a God before God.
No.
You want to expound on anything?
Yeah. So you might even see some of that in today's society, or even in today's church. Some of the signs of those type of people or leaders will be those that won't adhere to order. Where they always want to do something their own way, as opposed to following a structure. Now, I'm not saying things may not need to be changed or updated, but even when it's changed and updated, the structure and the order of things will remain. So we have to be able to discern those type of things when we're operating in the Spirit of God. As leaders, as followers, we have to adhere to the voice of God.
Mm-hmm. Even the leaders of this world, there is a hierarchy. There is a guidelines that we have to follow. The Constitution that we should be following. And when it is not followed, that's putting power, your own power, before God.
Yeah.
Because some of the positions that any of us have on our jobs, in our churches, in our government, we wouldn't have if God had not allowed us to be there. And now that we're there, we need to give honor and glory to God and thanks be to God, instead of feeling like I made it on my own and I can do whatever I want to now that I am here. Even on your jobs, there may be structure in the organization, but you may have a leader, a manager, a foreman who is cocky, and I'm going to do things my way. Nobody gave this to me. I got here on my own, and regardless of what the rules and the regulations say to do, I'm going to do it my way. So just be careful, because we cannot avoid God. We cannot give reverence to God for the things He has allowed us to do and expect power publicly, because at any given point, that public power can be reduced to nothing.
Yeah, so remember to always maintain that relationship with God, and maintain, even in no matter how high your position of leadership may be, stay humble. Stay humble, and great leaders always make great followers.
Yes, I like that. Let's say it together. Great leaders always make great followers. Remember that.
Yeah.
All right, so ask yourself, how can you avoid privately and expect power publicly? Mm-hmm. Put your comments in the chat, and if you have any questions, we'll get back with you.
Yes.
Again, thank you so very much. Have a wonderful Friday, and God bless you.
God bless you.